Good evening and welcome to Newsmax Prime. I'm J.D. Hayworth. Of prime interest tonight, the pervasiveness and some might say the perverse nature of politics. It's something I warned about last night. Yes, the Congress finally stood up to President Obama, overriding his veto for the first time ever, but that was for the 9/11 bill. Another bill was coming up, called a continuing resolution in legislative parlance, and I was concerned about the continuing compliant conduct of the Republican leadership on Capitol Hill. Once again, another short-term funding bill is in the offing, and the talk is that Mitch McConnell has already caved. Paul Ryan will no doubt follow suit. Sure enough, Mitch McConnell stripped the language that Ted Cruz had authored to stop our surrender of the internet to the United Nations, but the Republican leader kept in the pro-abortion money to give to Planned Parenthood, and presumably all the money Obama wanted to continue the flood of unvetted refugees into our country. When conservative priorities are stripped from a funding bill, but leftist money is kept in, the left and the media, but I repeat myself, they call it a clean bill. So most of the Republicans rolled over again. In the Senate, the vote was 77-26, while the House followed suit a little later by a 342-85 margin. Call it the triumph of the establishment and business as usual. So why did so many so-called conservatives cave? Simple. For them, it was a matter of time instead of money. With the November election only 40 days away, they want to get home and they don't want any added controversy. Sadly, once again, politics trumps principle. And that's the way I see it. But of course, the conservative grassroots believe a man named Trump can make a big difference. Newsmax TV political analyst Dick Morris joined me earlier to talk about the latest news in the campaign, and he keeps insisting there is a hidden Trump vote. Here's how he explained it.
People who do not normally vote, high school educated whites largely, and normally stay out of the process, are now thronging into the electorate to vote for Trump. To give you a feel of how extensive this could be, if you take the final day's polling in every one of the primaries and you compare the vote share they predicted Donald would get with the vote share he actually got on the primary itself, it's a 5-point difference. 5 points were people who did not vote for him in the poll, but then turned out and voted for him in the election. That could be because they were embarrassed to say they were voting for him. More likely, they said they wouldn't vote, and then in the last few days before the election, changed their mind and decided he was worth voting for.
So, Dick, that group you just talked about, is that the hidden Trump vote we've been hearing so much about?
Yes, it's what impels him to victory in each of these primaries.
For more on that and all the stories we've outlined, we're pleased to be joined now by the co-founder of the Women Vote Trump PAC, Amy Kremer. Amy's also former chairman of the Tea Party Express. She Skypes in tonight from Atlanta. And also joining us via Skype from Washington, D.C., Republican strategist Brad Blakeman. Brad's currently a professor at Georgetown, former senior staff advisor to President George W. Bush. Thanks to you both for your time here on Newsmax Prime. Amy, the hidden Trump vote, is it going to be there, and will it make the difference?
Well, JD, thanks for having me. I certainly hope it'll make a difference, and I do think it will be there. I mean, honestly, I was one of those people that didn't want to step forward and say I support Trump at the end of last year. And finally, in January, I thought, well, a real leader would come out and stand strong on their principles and get behind the person they supported, and that's exactly what I did. But I didn't want to do it because of the backlash that I would take from not only the left, but more importantly, from other conservatives and Republicans. And it was hell for a while. It was. But we're through it now, and I think a lot of us have come together, and I do think he's going to win. And if you look back at the polls early on in the primary, there were a lot of polls online that had Trump winning, and the media never saw it coming, and look where he is now. So there is something to be said that people don't want to go out and talk about who they support because they're afraid of the backlash and this, label that you're going to get for it. But at the end of the day, they're going to vote for what's best for their family.
All right, let me move from the hidden Trump vote to something of interest emanating from Washington, D.C., Brad, where you are. Today's Daily Caller points out that the payments Hillary and Bill made to their email tech, Brian Pagliano, matched the amount of tax deductions they claimed. That should be a giant red flag. But aside from the Daily Caller, is anybody else going to pick this up? And us, is anybody else going to pick this up?
Sadly, no. Look, the Clintons get a huge pass from the mainstream media. Certainly, Lester Holt was the third participant in the debate. He was not a fair dealer. I think a majority of Americans who viewed this saw it that way. So we have to fight against the mainstream media in addition to getting our message out. So no, they're not going to pick it up. That's the sad part. The evidence is overwhelming against the Clintons. The good news, JD, is we're seeing that Hillary's trust is tanking. Over 70% of the American people, regardless of party affiliation, don't trust her and they don't like her. And you have to get over that hump before you ever get to policy. So she's certainly not helped herself in the last debate, nor is she going to help herself because she can't help herself.
I should apologize at this juncture. We're having a little trouble with audio. Maybe we're missing a wire somewhere. Oh, maybe it was what was hidden under Hillary's clothing on Monday. Amy, did you see that? It is amazing the number of theories that have come forth about Hillary getting answers, trading signals. Just setting aside the fevered nature of conspiracy, is that just because, Amy, the popular perception is there isn't anything she would not do to win?
I think that's it. And people simply don't trust her. They absolutely don't trust her. But, JD, I think we need to go back to, if you just look at all she does is attack Donald Trump. And Trump made a great point Monday night when he talked about all the hundreds of millions of dollars of ads that have been spent on attacking him. And he has not spent any money on attacking her. I think that speaks volumes. I mean, honestly, I'm surprised he hasn't gone after her on the airwaves. But look, the American people aren't stupid. When they look at, she's been bought and paid for by foreign governments and corporations, when she's talked about, increasing the number of refugees that we absolutely cannot vet coming into our country, when she's going to increase taxes on everyone, the American people aren't stupid. They know what's going on here. And I think at the end of the day, if Mr. Trump just stands firm and talks about what he's going to do for American people, like he did that first 30 minutes of the debate when he was speaking to the people directly in Ohio and Pennsylvania and that Rust Belt, I think he will win. And I think it will be a big victory because the American people are tired of Washington as it is right now, and we certainly don't need another lawyer in the White House.
Well, let's pick up that last theme with Brad Blakeman. People are tired of Washington as it is. Now, I just offered a commentary on this new continuing resolution, the spending bill that keeps the government operating through mid-December. But in that bill, the Ted Cruz language was stripped out. So we do nothing to stop ceding the internet, the control of the internet, to an international body. Here's the real problem. Ted stood up. He slammed the Senate for giving in on this issue. And let's just listen to the way the Texas senator put it.
Unfortunately, the Senate leadership decided this week to give in to Obama on the giveaway of the internet. I have a lot of support from both senators and members of the House, John Thune and Chuck Grassley and Chairman Upton and Chairman Goodlatte in both the House and Senate were supporting me, but our leadership made the decision to give in to Obama's demands. I think it was a serious, serious mistake.
Ted Cruz with our own Joe Pags here on Newsmax TV. Brad, this argument always comes up in Washington. Our leadership at the 11th hour says, this is just the best we can do. And now the internet is being ceded. Is there any greater example of the disconnect between the establishment running the party legislatively and most of the grassroots?
No, and look, we go from crisis to crisis. I sounded the alarm right here on Newsmax in 2012 about Obama's intent to give up the internet. I spoke to Chris Ruddy. Chris Ruddy made that a lead story in Newsmax. Republicans knew that this was coming, and yet we did nothing about it until the 12th hour when Obama slipped it in. We do this to ourselves. If we allow ourselves to surrender to the pirate that's Obama, who basically cheats, steals, and lies his way through governance, then shame on us. But we should have stuck up for it from the very beginning when it was first fomenting itself here in Washington, and instead we allow ourselves to be held hostage to a president who we should be fighting instead of capitulating to.
Brad Blakeman in Washington, Amy Kremer in Atlanta, our thanks to both of you. My 2 cents again simply points out that you have conservative leadership in the House and the Senate that's prepared to cave. And the grassroots, and especially what happened here, was bait and switch. Because that big stand on the veto override, I'll tell you exactly what Mitch and Paul thought. They went, okay, we got cover, so we can get it passed. That's what they did. Now conservatives will wake up. But the gamble that Mitch and Paul are saying is, what are conservatives going to do? It is tough to deal with, and we continue on. Coming up next on Prime, Hungary's trade minister said his nation built a wall to keep out refugees who might engage in terrorism. Thomas Hendrickson joins us next to discuss that and his new book,